Hey everybody, Tech Talk Tuesday, 166. We'll go to the board in a minute. I'll show you 166. I'm gonna flip over and show you something cool stuff right quick. There's one of our old NHRA Pro Stock heads. This is a 5.125 bore. 2.8 intake valve, 2.100 exhaust valve, and the throttle body for each intake port. .85 millimeters. I don't know how big that is. 30-something inches for each port. Anyway, it's a pretty cool old package. But what I came to tell you guys about today, hey Barry and JJ, here's a Suzuki 2-valve port, like in a Pro Stock Suzuki. And here's a Pro Stock Buell intake port, Pro Stock Buell intake port, and a Pro Stock Suzuki 2-valve. And then over here is the monster head, the 4-valve intake and exhaust. But you can see how big this is compared to that. That's not what I came to tell you about, but that's just some stuff. And then out here, I'm gonna take this shameless opportunity to tell you that my project motorcycle, I advertised it a little bit on Facebook today, but this is my 2020 Road Glide Special. It only has 1,200 miles on it. And it is a stock 114 with bolt-on parts. And when I say bolt-on parts, it has a really nice D&D 2-in-1 with the big bore pipe on it. It has the F35A camshaft in it. It has our spring kit. It has a set of the lifter cuffs, which I'll go inside and show you in a little while, to hold the lifters in alignment when the lifters go up higher. Went from like 350, 400 lift all the way up to 572 lift, so we had to put springs in it, but we got a Jim's kit where we can put the springs into the heads without taking the heads off, so it's bolt-on stuff. Has a Screaming Eagle 64 aluminum manifold. I'll show you that in the shop. And then it has the Stealth air cleaner, which has the taller element. And of course, like I said, it only has 1,200 miles on it, and I've got it for sale. New motorcycle like this costs about 25 grand or more. And I've done $6,000 or $7,000 worth of work to it, so I'm going to ask $30,000 for it. And I know this is a commercial, but I'm going to take just these 3 minutes and tell you how perfect this motorcycle is. This is a perfect rendition of a 2020 Road Glide Special. I mean, like new. And everybody's asking me, so, well, did you wear out the tire? Did you do that? Did you wear out? No, the tire is far from being worn out. And then my phone got messed up. I floored it when I came around the corner, and the back tire spun a little bit, but I've not done a burnout. It has the little clutch springs in it on the stock clutch basket, which is really nice, and it also has our billet compensator ramp in it. And if you can find something wrong with it, it'll surprise me, because I can't even find a scratch or a nick. It's got a couple of bugs that we killed, so it's a bug slayer. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. And it's cold, right now, real cold, so it's not going to start up and sound perfect when it's cold, but okay, that's all I'm going to do for my bike commercial today, but this is for sale only because I'm finished with it. I have my mind on a new one that I'd like to have next to do some more testing, but this one is available today. Like I said, you can get a brand new motorcycle like this, and if you're going to do all those upgrades that give you 40 extra horsepower, this is already done and it's perfect. So let me know if you're interested, and we'll make a deal on it. All right, back to the project room. and Tech Talk Tuesday is getting ready to start for real right now. All right. Blue 50, the police bike that I bought to make my next 9-second bucket list bike out of. I'm going to foot shift it with the stock transmission. We'll go in the nines. My goal is to run a 975 foot shifting, back in the throttle off, shifting, back in the throttle off and shifting. And I got some engine stuff I want to share with you that I want to tell you about today. Very popular for these Milwaukee 8 engines, 2017 and up, is these intake manifolds. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. A lot of people want to know about them. A lot of people want to know about lifter cuffs. They want to know about adjustable push rods. They want to know about head bolts. And I have some of this stuff to show you. I also have the billet compensator versus the stock compensator. This part breaks. It's very brittle. It's hard from Harley, very brittle. This will break. It goes on the end of the crankshaft. This is the billet compensator that Liberty's Gears makes for us. They're the ones that make everybody's pro stock car, pro stock motorcycle, and pro mod transmissions. These guys have been my gear and metal heat treat company of choice ever since I was personal friends with Craig Liberty back 20, 30 years ago when he was running a Comp Eliminator dragster with a little 4-cylinder in it. And he has helped me through my pro stock career with my cars and motorcycles and pro mod cars, and I found a way to get Liberty's Gears involved. They make these exclusively for us, so if you buy a billet compensator ramp for your Milwaukee 8 and you don't know who yours is made by or where it comes from, Star Racing is exclusively made by Liberty's Gears in Detroit, Michigan. Back to the manifolds. All right, some of you guys have heard about this, but this is the factory Harley intake manifold for the Milwaukee 8. It is plastic. It's not the only plastic manifold in the world because the LS engines, the Corvettes, the Camaros, they're all coming with this, some heat, some kind of stuff where it's okay. I mean, this works okay. But I want to tell you about the restriction in power and airflow on these intake manifolds. If you'll notice, this intake manifold, this is the one that came off the police bike. It was a well sealed up engine. It didn't have oil all in it. The breathers were not oily. So they had done a good job breaking it in. And I would imagine the way they broke this Milwaukee 8 in over here was with the throttle screwed down, big pressure on the rings, seated the rings up fast so we didn't have a lot of blow by. And I know the factory Moco tells us to ride around like grandma, grandpa for 500 miles and glaze the rings up. And they don't tell you whether to get it hot or not. They don't tell you whether to drive around easy or make sure you don't go the same speed on the you know, keep the RPM down, keep the speed down, and they just have you burnish the rings to the cylinder walls, and the cylinder walls become very smooth and the rings become very smooth, and we lose our ring seal right away and we burn oil for the rest of our life. And this one has not been cleaned. It does not burn oil. It did not have oil in it. This is the one right off the police bike. So they did a good job breaking theirs in, just like I did the black Road Glide outside. I broke mine in that way. I went out. This is going to be a real quick little 30-second story about you get you a new Harley or a new engine. Don't run it hot, but man, don't put 500 miles on it cruising around nice and slow. I don't know what that's for, but it doesn't help your engine. I think what I have found through my career is when Harley builds a new crankshaft, they put it together with zero clearance on the rods. They put zero clearance on the mains and zero clearance, like they'll get a box of rods already honed to size. Here's what they look like. And they hone them to the same size as the bearing that goes on this crankshaft. They'll hone these rods, the ID of the big ends, they'll hone them to maybe 1/10 or 2/10 clearance because it has a roller bearing in it. And they want you to drive around easy for 500 miles so that the roller bearings can roll and the rod bearings, the inside of the rod bore can get polished and the pin on the crankshaft can get burnished so that it can live with 2 or 3/10 clearance. And when you take your engine apart after you're ready to soup it up or build it and make it faster, you may find a rod stuck, like just stuck right here. And that's because they have zero clearance and the rods go out around and they have zero clearance and they get stuck and you have to take it apart. I sent this crankshaft to Stanley Gardner at GRC. They honed these rods out to 1.5 thou clearance. They honed the big ends out. So now this can rev up, and it needs no break-in time. The only thing that needs break-in time on this engine is going to be these cylinder bores and the rings, and I'm going to 3,000 RPM, third gear, fourth gear. I'm going to floor it full throttle, and when it gets to 4,000, I'm going to back off and let it drag down. And then when it gets up to 3,000 RPM again, I'm going to floor it, let it get up to 4 or 4,500 and back her down. And I'm going to do that for 20, 30 times, maybe go to 4,500, maybe go to 5,000. And these rings will be sealed to these cylinders, and we will not have any blow-by in our intake manifold. And if you do, there's some guys that sell some really cool stuff that you can bolt on to your air cleaner or put your breathers outside of the engine so that you're not getting crankcase breathers down in the engine, like some hot rod cars, turbo cars, and blown cars need what they call catch cans. And they need catch cans because they've got blow-by, and they're puking oil out of the breathers. All right, I'm going to stop moving this around, and I'm going to start talking to you about these intake manifolds. All right, this intake manifold right here. This part right here is not a restriction. This is really big. Let me get my caliper, and I'm going to show you how big this is. Stock throttle body is 55 millimeters. This manifold right here, I'm struggling, but I'll get it. Here we go. Two inches, 300 thou. 2 inches, 300 thou. That's how big this manifold is right here. 2 inch, 300 thou. Please understand that the restriction starts here. This is tiny. This is 1/800. 1/800. That's how much the restriction is at the intake port. All right, let's go to the front head and the back head. We're going to be 1 inch 800. Can you see that? All right, now if you come over to the throttle body side, you're going to say, wow, look how big that is compared to the 1/800. Well, that's because there's two ports that get fed here. Good news is they don't both ask for it at the same time. This port right here, when the front cylinder goes down on intake, it pulls all the air it can through here, and this is the jet or the restriction or the choke. When this one goes down on the intake stroke, the rear, it pulls all it can through here, and this is the restriction of the choke, not this. So therefore, we'll buy, this is a 55 millimeter throttle body, manifold for a 55 millimeter throttle body. It's made out of plastic. We don't like that. We want an aluminum one. Here is this off-the-shelf Screaming Eagle. If you'll look, it has these really cool shark fins in there to help the flow bench give you a good number. People like these shark fins because they like flow benches, and when the flow bench says it needs a shark fin, right here, people that flow these with a flow bench are going to check this, and they're going to say this little shark fin adds 10 or 20 CFM to what the engine's asking for. And that's a great opinion, but the engine is not running a flow bench. This is just my opinion. But everybody that designs these things, they like these in here because every one of these, the heads, the ports, everything's made based on flow bench data. So let's measure this one. Let's go right over here. And let's measure this one sideways right here. Let's go. This one is almost 1 inch 800. This port is almost 1 inch 800. So when you buy this big old manifold from Screaming Eagle, I just want you to know that it is the same size as the plastic one. Okay, let's do it in reality. This is 1 inch 794 thou. 1 inch 794 thou. This one is 1 inch 700 and just goes over 800. So this one is 15 thou bigger. What does that mean in the world? Well, this right here, I found a socket. This is a really nice 32 millimeter snap-on I have. I put it in the port, it fits. This is how big this port is, okay? this socket will fit in this port. So I'm going to use that as my indicator that's easier to measure than that manifold. I mean, than that caliper. All right, this socket will not go in here. One reason it won't is because this shark fin's in the way, but this area, this cross-sectional area right here is way smaller than this little baby plastic manifold, okay? So that's why people need to get these ported. Rick Ward does a great job doing a CNC port on this to open this up and make it 1/900, and he sharpens up these fins and makes these a little nicer, and if you flow it on a flow bench, it will flow more than this. This doesn't flow much, this flows more, and if you get Rick Ward's guys to CNC this for you, it will flow even more yet. This is something that I've seen and lived through my whole life. This part is, again, is not the restriction. This is so much bigger. Like this right here. This won't fit. This socket will not fit. But it is way more than you need here. So when this head asks for all the airflow this manifold can give it, this is not the restriction. When this head asks for airflow through this manifold, this is not the restriction. Just as an opinion, okay? Now I'm going to get the HPI. This is really nice. This is their manifold that they sell for 62, 64, 66. I don't know what size manifold it is, but it's really big right here. As again, it's not the restriction. It's plenty big enough, but it is 1/900 or bigger right here. This actually improves the airflow by giving you, no it doesn't. No it doesn't. It gives you more horsepower because this gives you cross-sectional area that is much needed, especially in these big engines, 131s, 143s, 145s, 150s, 139s. This manifold works great, even on a small engine. But if you're going bigger than 114 or 117 or maybe a 124, we need some more area here that this manifold doesn't give us unless it's ported bigger. And this manifold doesn't give us enough area to feed the cylinders with how much air it needs unless, well, this one can't be ported. This is just useless. People say they run this because they want it to make low end power or they want it to make torque. I got to tell you that opinion on that. Now, this is not for sale yet, but it will be. This is Moonshine had Frankenstein make this manifold for the new cylinder heads that I'm going to be using on Blue 5.0 over there, and I want you to see this cross-sectional area. Here's a 1/900 intake valve for a 2-valve, but I want you to see the cross-sectional area. This has got a lot of room to get a lot of air in this engine, whereas this HPI is almost big enough, but it's not. Even a 1/900 valve won't go in it. And this Screaming Eagle one, of course, the 1/900 can't go in it, and of course, the stock one is like, what are you trying to tell me? Back to the HPI, won't go in. It's too small. So we got big choke here. And then, of course, this new monster intake manifold gives us all the air we want. The 1/800 socket will rattle in here and give us all the room we want. This is just what I wanted to share with you. Again, this is not the restriction. Yet, people are crazy about these big throttle bodies. They think this is where we need more throttle body, but that is not our problem. This is our problem. This area needs to be increased. This one was developed by the guys at Frankenstein, and they love a flow bench, and they flow all their heads, and they give you all flow results. So they put the shark fins in here, which, in my opinion, they may help on the flow bench, but they don't help on horsepower. They just take up room. And we need area. We don't need 28-inch flow bench data. This is an opinion coming from George Bryce. We need area. We need this to be bigger so we can get more air in when the engine, because when that piston goes down on these big cylinders, these big 4-inch, 600 cylinders, and this piston's going down on the intake stroke, it does not care what the head flows at 28 inches. It only flows the massive amount of area that can be filled in this cylinder when this piston says, open the intake valves now. And this, all of these have a choke, small, medium, large, and extra large, and this choke is the biggest. So this will get more air in the engine regardless of a flow bench. Another thing I wanted to share that was kind of cool when I pulled it apart is this is the camshaft out of the police bike. This is a stock Harley cam, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it in this picture, but these lobes are pressed on. Everybody may know this, but not many people, I don't think, do. But these lobes are splined onto this shaft. Maybe we can get a view where you'll be able to see the splines. I just thought that was very interesting. I knew it, but I didn't never know it enough to show it to you while we were talking. All right. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to use a 70 millimeter throttle body. I'm going to use this big manifold, and I'm going to let this be the restriction of how much air goes in my engine. Now you say, okay, well, that's big. That's over 2 inches square, 2 square inches. That's bigger than the valves. Well, it's bigger than some valves. It's bigger than a stock Screaming Eagle valve, but it is not bigger area than these +4. Come on, phone. I'm sorry I leaned you over. Come on. There you go. It's not bigger than these +4s. So I'll show you how the area of that intake manifold is going to line up with this head. So this has been completely machined out to be over 2 square inches, and the valves are really huge. So this head can actually move more air than this. This is the smallest part of the port right here. Even though it's the biggest of anybody's, this is the smallest part. So remember, your big throttle body is a thing. It's just not the thing. Your big valves are a thing. They're just not the thing. There is more to it than what you think. They think the valves is the only limitation. They believe this intake manifold size and the port flow and how big all that stuff is, that's just something that is important. I have a stock head down here. I'll let you see. And we'll grab, let me turn this, make this. We'll get a caliper. And let's measure this cross-sectional area. This is a stock one. Again, we made 1/900. The stock head is 1/900. That is bigger than anybody's intake manifold except for the HPI and maybe the Rick Ward one ported. But it's bigger than this port is bigger than the plastic manifold. This port is bigger than the Screaming Eagle manifold. So this, even though this is a huge restriction for us, this is about right for the HPI manifold. Or if you get a manifold, an S&S manifold, or you get the HPI manifold, or you get the Screaming Eagle manifold, ask for it to be at least as big as your ports, because when the guys port these, you send these out and get them ported, they don't usually make this bigger, because if they do, the intake manifold and the intake flange won't fit. I want more area more than I want more flow. Tech Talk 166. All right, here's more. Let's raise the phone back up so I can share some more cool stuff with you. Here is the lifter cuffs. These are the factory plastic ones that come on all the Milwaukee 8s. They go right here. This is where they bolt on. These keep the lifters lined up, so excuse me for flopping around. When these lifters go up and down on the cam, these are the only thing that keeps these lifters straight. And think about this for a minute. If this lifter turns, if this lifter twists without these cuffs, this lifter is going to turn, and when it turns, it's going to drag across this camshaft, and it's going to wipe these lobes out. So this wheel has to stay perfectly aligned and parallel with this. And the guys get really scared of these plastic cuffs, even though there's no problem with them unless you add so much lift here with your new camshaft that it wants to come up higher, and this little step right here catches on the cuff. This little step will come up and knock this off. Okay, so what do? I'll go grab it. S&S makes these billet lifter cuffs. These are nice. They give us a lot more lift. They give us a lot more travel here so that we can get a lot more lift in here. See how far the wheel comes up above it? I'll try and get it back in here and show you. All right, you ready? Here we go. Look at this wheel. Watch how far this lifter comes up now. So you can put a lot of lift in here and this will keep it straight. This is not because these are weak. This is because these don't have any travel. These are short throw, short lift lifter cuffs. And there's really nothing to wear out here, but people freak out because they're plastic. They hold up on the Corvettes, the Z01s, LS, LS6, LS7, they hold up really well on those. But this gives you a lot more lift. So when you buy a F35A, a 3/4 or a full race cam, or 615, you have to use these lifter cuffs because we have more lift than a stock lifter cuff will, okay? The 30-30 camshaft is a bolt in. These right here work perfect with our 30-30 cam because it's only 485 lift. But when you go about 500 lift, you're gonna run out of lifter cuffs. So you have to get these guys to be able to get the lift in there. And also these are really strong. They're anodized billet. Push rods. Stock push rods are nice, but when you change cams, you got to get you some bolt cutters and cut these out, or you take the top off the engine, pull the top off and pull the push rods out to change cams. I like to use these. These are the Screaming Eagle adjustable ones. And the reason I like these is because they're really strong. They're chrome moly, they're heat treated, and they've got a really strong, thick cross section here and a small oil hole so that the cross-sectional area of this part is strong and doesn't flex. Like, and I'm not bagging on the ones from S&S, but they're called Quickie push rods, and they're really small right here. They're really small, and they've got big oil holes, so they're real thin, and they are flexi flyers compared to the stock one or the Screaming Eagle, a Screaming Eagle adjustable ones, which I like. That's what I use. This is how they look. I buy them over at the Harley shop. They're stronger, stout. I haven't had any trouble with them, but I like them better than these S&S Quickies because a lot of guys, a lot of friends, and a lot of smart people use them because they come with cams and whatnot. The other thing I want to tell you is when you take your heads on and off your Milwaukee 8, these are the stock head bolts. I want you to know, I've learned the hard way through all these years. This is a one-time bolt. A lot of new engines are coming with that technology now, but this is you torque this bolt down one time and it's no good. If you take it off, throw it in the trash and buy some more. You can buy these for 30 or 40 bucks for all of them from Harley. A stock one is fine. I bought $130, $40 worth, the S&S ones. These are probably made by ARP or somebody like that, but these bolts are, you can use them 10 times. You can take the engine, like I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this engine apart. I'm gonna put it together. I'm not gonna use one-time torque one-time bolts. I'm gonna put it together, run it hard, take it apart. I'm gonna use these bolts so I can take it apart and put it back together several times. But that's a little bit of my real quick Tech Talk Tuesday today that I wanted to catch you up on. Blue 50, I wanted to tell you about my bike for sale and why. I've got another project Harley that I want to get into that's going to be a stock street bike that I'm going to test some more stuff on. And mission accomplished with the Black Beauty outside. Hit me back if you're interested. I'll make you a deal on it where you can, if you're going to buy a new Harley, get that one with all the work already done and you'll enjoy it. Thank you so much again for your time. Tech Talk Tuesday 166 is in the books. Thank you guys. I appreciate you a ton. Please send me messages. Please send me information and ideas. I want to tell you about it. We're going to put the engine in this week. I got everything ready for the engine to go in. I got everything ready to do the deck height on the cylinders. And we'll talk more about these cool manifolds and all these ideas and why I wanted to tell you about it. May God bless you all. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Again, thank you, and may God bless.